Hello, my name is Olatunji Shobodu, and this is Leadership in 30 Minutes. Leadership in 30 Minutes. You are welcome. It's a tough business following a leader. Unfortunately, many people don't benefit from leaders because they don't take responsibility. They come to the leader with a casual disposition. Some even come to the leader wondering, what does the leader have to offer? They don't understand the importance of having the input of leadership into their lives. Truth be told, none of us can develop. None of us can develop to the level that is required of us without benefiting from the input of leadership. That is simply the truth about leadership. In order to benefit from a leader's input, there are things that we must understand. There are things that we must learn to embrace. Following a leader is certainly not piece of cake. So I'll be speaking today. Following a leader is serious business. I want to draw your attention to how to fully benefit from following any leader. And let me start by saying that funny enough, you can benefit from true leaders. You can benefit as well from false leaders. All right. There are various kinds of benefits. I'm going to be focusing substantially on how to benefit from true leaders. But just in case you're wondering, if it's true that you can benefit from false leaders, you can check out my YouTube channel and look for the video, Learning from False Leaders. You can learn from false leaders. Jesus said to his disciples, he said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. He was saying to them, and he said this expressly, he said, listen to what they say, but don't do what they do. Why? Because they don't do what they say. All right. What they say, they know how to say the right things. They know enough about, the principles, about the laws to know to do what is right. Their problem is that they just don't make use of that knowledge. They do contrary things. So you can learn from them. Okay. But don't learn their example, learn what they say. And so again, you find that examples are not necessarily the best teachers. All right. People often say, talk about examples and make a big deal about examples, but I often submit that the words are important. The words are more important than the example. Why? Because the words give credence to the example. The words give credence. Examples make no meaning if you don't know why people do what they do. Okay, so that aside, that's not the business for today. The business for today is on following a leader is serious business. Following a leader is very serious business. I think that in many of my past videos, I have spoken about the importance of leadership, the importance of leadership as an input into shaping the lives of people. Recently I did a video. You may want to check that out as well. And I had to speak to a subject. I said, you are not what God wants you to be, at least not yet. And basically is to say that you need the input of a leader. You need the input of a leader. Ephesians 4 verse 13 tells us very clearly, he gave some verses 11 to 13, he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and all of that for the perfecting of the saints. Now, all those categories of responsibilities are leadership, responsibilities, if you like, leadership levels. Some time ago spoke about the 5 levels of leadership, and that helps to describe it. Again, you may want to check that video on the channel. It's an elaborate video. It will help you a great deal. For some of you who have listened to the 5 levels of leadership, by Jim Collins, you can get a different perspective. Perhaps even a more credible one, a more relatable, 5-level structure of leadership. That challenges you also to develop yourself. Okay, so those leaders are given for the perfecting of the saints. So that tells you that the saints can be perfect without the input of leadership. All right, you and I can be perfect. We can attain unto who God wants us to be without the input of the leadership. We have not been created to be, an island unto ourselves, to be independent of everybody else, to think that we can figure out everything. There are people who have gone ahead of us. There are people who have experienced things that you haven't experienced. There are people who have gone ahead, and it is so that they can show you the way. Why do you want to figure things out yourself when you can benefit from what others have gone through, and it can make your life a lot easier? It can make your progress a lot faster. It can get you to the point, where God wants you to get to much earlier. I'd like to follow somebody like Paul, who got to a point and said, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. I can't ignore a man like that. I'd like to be able to know, how did he get to that point where he was able to make such a declaration? Jesus also did something similar. In John 17, Jesus went to God and he said, Sir, I have finished, the work that you gave me. And these are the things that I've done. He even went ahead, like Paul also. But I think his was a more frontal. He said, now give me the glory. Paul said, I know a crown is waiting for me. But Jesus said, now give me the glory that you promised, because I have completed my assignment. Now, I want to be able to benefit from that. And that gives a sense of why leadership is important. But if you want to benefit, as important as leadership is, you must understand what it takes to follow. You must understand what it takes to truly follow a leader. In order to benefit from what a leader has to offer, from the input of a leader, you have a role, you have a responsibility. And what we're discussing today is to draw your attention to the responsibility that you have. Now, you may be thinking that, okay, why should I accord any leader, these kinds of cooperation or collaboration or respect, however you interpret it. But, I'd like to point out to you that you also may be in a leadership position right now, or you may be aspiring to be in a leadership position, or you may find yourself in a leadership position tomorrow. And some of us who are used to criticizing others, we soon find out what it takes to lead. We soon find out that leadership itself is not piece of cake. And I hope that when we get there, we can do better than the same people that we have criticized in the past. So it's important for us to learn how to be good followers. It's important, if we must follow leaders, acknowledging that they have something to add to our lives, they have value to add to our lives, or at least we give them the privilege, to add such value, whatever value they have to our lives. If we must, then it's important that we understand that there are requirements. There are requirements. Now, I'd like to follow the example of Jesus, and that's what we do. And some of these are proven, in my own practical corporate experience. And he said something very clearly in Matthew 10 and 38. And he said, look, if you want to follow me, whoever wants to be my disciple, whoever wants to be my follower, there are things that he needs to do. All right. There are things that I expect him to do. This is the way that you must conduct yourself. This is what you must be prepared for. Okay. It's not a casual relationship. In every relationship, just as the leader-follower relationship is, there are responsibilities. The parties have responsibilities towards each other. For the relationship to be meaningful, those responsibilities have to be shouldered. In fact, we can submit that the extent, the degree to which each one shoulders his or her respective, responsibility will determine what each one gets out of the relationship. What you get out of the relationship is not entirely determined by the leader. In fact, it is determined for the most part by the follower. The leader can do his best, but the follower still will determine what he or she gets. And while we're at it, let me say that the reason some people benefit more from a leader than others is also because of some of the things that we'll be discussing, today. All right. It's not usually the case that a leader is being biased, or a leader is showing favoritism. That's why one person is deemed to be benefiting more from the leader. And indeed, when you look at what is really the benefit that you get from the leader, it is not being treated, specially. Okay, some of those people that are treated specially may not necessarily be the one that are even benefiting the most. Okay, you have to look at what does the leader really brings to the table. What is the promise of leadership? And if you can focus on the promise, and go after it and conduct yourself in a way that you lay hold of it, then you become, you benefit far more than those people that you consider to be treated partially by the same leader. Okay, so Jesus said, you are not worthy of me if you can't follow me. And what are the elements, of that following? What are the elements? You can't benefit from me if you don't follow me. Now, the way he made this statement repeatedly, okay? He made this statement repeatedly. And basically, what he was saying is that, look, let's not make this relationship a casual one. Okay, you want to benefit from me, you must be ready to follow me. You must be ready. Okay, you have to take up your cross and follow. You have to take up your cross and follow me. If you want to benefit, you have to deny yourself, you have to take up your cross, you have to follow me. Okay? Very important statement that is made there is an eye-opening statement. Okay, in Matthew 16 and verse 24, he said also, if anyone wants to be my follower, you have to give up your own way, take up your cross and follow. You have to yield to the leader's way. You have to yield to the leader's way. Let me identify very quickly 3 conditions, okay, to follow the leader and to follow the leader very effectively. What's the first condition? The first condition says deny yourself. Deny yourself doesn't mean that you are not who you are. What it means is, like I just said, you must be ready to set aside certain beliefs, certain conditions. All right. In some cases, as people would often say, you must be ready to unlearn. You must be ready to relearn as well. Okay. To deny yourself is to acknowledge that you have something significant to benefit from the leader, that the leader is bringing something to the table and you need to pay attention. You stand to gain. Don't put your convictions, don't put who you think you are on the way, because it will hinder you from accessing what the leader has to offer. To deny yourself is to, you know, come to the relationship with humility. All right, that you don't know all, that you are not where you can be, that the leader still has a lot to add to you. One of the statements that I make to help, people in this regard is this: that never mind how the one who is leading got into that position. Never mind. Don't preoccupy yourself with that. Don't even preoccupy yourself with the qualifications, with the experience. Don't try to really convince yourself about how the leader got to that position. Now, what you should come to that relationship with is the humility that this leader, for this person to be in this leadership role, and for me to be under the supervision of this leader, then there is something that I have to benefit. There is something important that I still need, that this person either has or this person can facilitate the delivery of. It's a humbling, disposition, and it will help a great deal. That's what we mean by denying yourself. It's not denying your name, you are who you are. It's not denying whether you are male or female. It's not denying, your qualification. It's not denying some of your own characteristics. Okay. It's not denying your strengths. Okay. It's not even denying your weaknesses or shortcomings. All right. After all of us have, and the leader as well has. It is the attitude that you need to bring to the relationship. If you bring an attitude of someone who is made, of someone who is experienced, of someone who wonders what can this person really have to offer, of someone who is all about finding fault and blaming the leader at every turn, then you are not going to benefit from that leader. And I assure you that there is something that every leader has to offer. There is something you have learned. You heard me when I started, when I said that we're counseled to even learn from false leaders. All right. The fact that somebody is not doing something well means that you still need to pay attention, because you can learn. People say you can learn from failures. All right. So if you work with a bad leader, does it mean that you can't learn leadership? Oh, no, you can learn leadership. And I've told you what to learn from them. Okay. Again, check out my videos, Learning from False Leaders, on my YouTube channel, and you would get some good perspective on that. So that's the point about denying yourself. All right. Humble yourself. I have to, let you know that it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not the easiest thing to do. Many people fail in that regard. Many people need to develop that. But that's part of what? leadership prepares you for. That's part of what leadership builds in you. If you come to the table with that attitude, you begin to address character issues. And character is fundamental to leadership. Character is fundamental. Indeed, what the leader does is to develop a strong character in you. That's what leadership does. All right. It is first and foremost about shaping the person. All right. In order for the person to be able to get very concrete results, the result that truly matters has to do with the person more than it has to do with the numbers. And I hope that many leaders will come to understand that. The second condition, it says, take up your cross. All right. This looks a religious language because I've just lifted it directly from the Bible the way it is. But what does it truly mean? It means take responsibility for your life. Take a responsibility. Okay. You are on a journey in life. All right. And it comes with responsibility. It comes with responsibility. Take responsibility. If you want to improve, if you want to be transformed, if you want to attain a higher state of perfection, if you want to make progress, take responsibility. Take responsibility. It didn't say carry the leader's cross. The leader has a cross of his own to carry. Last week, that was the focus, the cross of leadership. Okay, the cross that the leader has to carry. Again, check out the video. It's on my YouTube channel. And you get a good. I wanted to balance the discussion on the cross as it relates to leadership. That's why, we're looking at the cross of following today. Last week on Leadership in 30 Minutes, we looked at the cross of leadership. This week, we're looking at the cross of following, the two sides, of the coin. And it's relevant. It's relevant because every leader is also a follower. Every leader is also a follower. I may be leading at my level, but I also have people, that I look up to. Every leader. So all of us are following at the same time we are leading. All right. Most of us, I believe many are following and also leading simultaneously. So you need the two perspectives to ensure that these engagements are profitable, and you don't waste. So that's what it means. Take up your cross, not take up the leader's cross. Nobody's asking you to take up the leader's cross. And no true leader will ask you to take up his or her cross. There is the responsibility to lead. There is the responsibility to follow. Each one should focus on his or her own responsibility for the good of the relationship, for the relationship to produce value, for people, for both parties to benefit from, the relationship. And of course, the third condition is to follow. And when we talk about following here, it is to commit. It is to commit. All right. Following here has to do with believing and trusting. Believe the leader and trust. Give the leader the benefit of the doubt. All right. Now, short of, not following what the leader says in terms of, if a leader tells you to do things that are illegal, surely, you are not to follow. But if a leader is showing you things and they don't really make sense to you, all right, you give the benefit of the doubt. Because if you are to learn, okay, if you want to learn from me, there are things I would ask you to do. There were things that I would say that you may not understand. All right. But I understand them because I have a deeper knowledge of them. I understand them because I have experience along those lines. All right. When you follow leadership, you don't follow just on the basis of certainty. You follow also on the basis of uncertainty. But that's where the issue of faith, that's where the issue of trust comes in. You have to trust your leader. If you are not willing to trust, you are not ready to benefit. If you are not really willing to believe, you are not ready to unlock the value that the leader has to offer. I am always struck by the statement that was made in John 1 and verse 12. And there it talks about, in fact, if you back up starting from verse 11, it said he came unto his own, talking about Jesus, the master leader, as I'm wont to call him. It says there, he came to his own, and his own did not receive him. It said, but to as many as received him, to them he gave power to become the sons of God, even to those who believed in his name. A very instructive statement. And I guarantee you that statement is not just religious. That statement is truth. You can't benefit from the one who you don't believe in. You can't benefit from a person whose words you do not receive. You just can't. And when you submit yourself in faith, when you believe in your leader, what happens? You are empowered. That's the beauty of it. You are empowered to become a bona fide product of your leader. A son of God is a product of the leader. That's the description. You are the son of God. Means you are the product of God. Means that when we look at you, we see God in you. All right. When we look at you as one who has walked with a leader, we see attributes of the leader, the key attributes of a leader, the key things that empowers the leader, the things that make your leader, all right, tick. We see them in you. So there is the power of transformation. Okay. And that's where that third requirement falls into. Very important. You commit means you follow in faith, you follow trusting, you follow with respect. You follow with respect. These are three vital conditions for you to benefit. They are conditions for you to call yourself a worthy member of the team of the leader. Never mind what others do. Everyone has to decide and to determine what they get from a leader. But the ones who will get something from the leader, who will make the most of that relationship, who will, make their following count, they are those who meet these three conditions. These three conditions, all right? They come with humility, willing, ready to learn, understanding that the leader has something to offer, had value to add to them. They don't allow whatever they have accomplished, whoever they may think they are, to get in the way. The second is that they take responsibility. They take responsibility. They know that leadership is important for them to make progress. So they are in search of leaders. And when they find, all right, they are ready to throw themselves wholeheartedly into that responsibility. And then, of course, they commit fully. Okay, now that's the follow. Now, let me talk about very quickly as we begin to round up, 3 steps in order for you to profit from following. I'd like to emphasize the aspect of counting the cost. And you find that in Luke 14, where Jesus spoke about that, verses 27 to 28. And the context of that is quite interesting. Please go ahead, and read it up. But he did make a statement. Is one of the places where he made that statement, saying that, look, if you want to follow me, there are requirements. He said, if you don't bear your cross, all right, don't carry your cross, if you don't take responsibility and follow, that is strongly commit, said, and come after me, you cannot be my disciple. You cannot be my disciples. That is, there is no way for you to benefit from me. There is no way for you to truly claim any meaningful association with me. There is no way for you to become a successor if you don't fulfill those requirements. All right. But he then went on to use this illustration. He said, look, for which of you intending to build a tower will not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has sufficient to complete it? He says, so that after you start, you don't get stuck, run out of money in the middle, and then people start to make fun of you. That he said it in the context of the leader-follower relationship, not just in general context. Yes, we use that principle in general context, but I love the fact that here he said it in the context of a relationship, with him as leader and the follower is one of the things that, one of the relationships that, he and us, okay, have as an example. Okay, he said it clearly. He said you must count the cost. So that's the first step. That's the first step in these 3 steps. You must count the cost of following the leader. You must settle down to count the cost. You must settle down to count the cost. Okay. And, when you look at Matthew 8 and verse 20, Luke 9 and verse 58, a man ran to him and said, I'm going to follow you everywhere you are going. Everywhere you are going. Maybe he got excited about the power. Maybe he got excited about the wisdom. Maybe he got excited about the way people were following him, and the way he was issuing instructions and people, things were happening. It seemed that must have been some of the things that he was looking at. The same way that today people look at the leaders and what they see is the way he's dressed, what they see, is the kind of car he uses. What they see is his office, how wonderfully set it is, and all of that. They miss the point. And so Jesus said to this guy, all right, as many of us will say to those who are subordinates, who are looking up to us, he said, look, foxes have holes and birds have their nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. What was he doing? He was trying to get that guy to count the cost of following, to count the cost of following, that it's not very comfortable. All right. Although ultimately the value, nothing can compare to the value that you gain from it. But understand, it's a journey, and that journey is not very profitable. The journey is not paved in gold. Okay, that's the first thing. Count the cost. Count the cost. You need to count the cost so you know what you're getting in for. So you prepare yourself, all right, for the journey with your leader, and you are ready, you are willing to give it everything that it will take. The second, therefore, is to commit fully. Is to commit fully. And we've talked about that, is to follow in faith, in trusting the leader, willing to do what the leader says, believing that the leader has your interest at heart and he or she is committed to adding significant value, all right, to your life. That's what is required as the second step. The final step in Luke chapter 9 and verse 62, the final step, don't look back. Don't look back. He said, anyone who lays his hand on the plow and looks back, I would have no pleasure in him. You can't look back when you're following a leader. You can't look back. When you are following a true leader, you can't look back. All right. Because there's a lack of commitment. That's undermining your commitment. All right. Um, and when you do that, that is undermining your second step. That is not living true to the first step, because you ought to have counted the cost. You ought to have counted the cost. All right. And he says, I would have no pleasure in him. How do you benefit from somebody who has no pleasure in you? How do you benefit from somebody who feels that you don't trust me? All right. You are not cooperating with me. You are not collaborating with me. You are not encouraging the person to give his or her very best. You are not. You don't look back. And like I said, you need to walk with a leader on the basis of faith, because there are many things you don't see that the leader has seen. You may even think you know what the destination the leader has promised is, but I guarantee you, you may not know enough about that. And I'll use a very quick example. I tend to use some examples, quite often, because they just make the point. When you look at the man who ran to Jesus, he said, Master, I'm wealthy, but I want eternal life. How do I get it? And Jesus said to him, in fact, it was one of the places where he said, go and sell your possessions, distribute it to the poor, all right? Take up your cross and come and follow me. When you look at that, the three conditions were there. Deny yourself, all right? Take responsibility and come and follow me. Now, what happened? That guy didn't do what he was asked to do. And he went away sorrowful. He went away the same way he came, nothing. He didn't gain anything. Yet he acknowledged Jesus as the leader, but in their interaction, and the leader was willing to lead because he told him what he would do, what he should do. But he could not understand. He couldn't bring himself to face the reality of what seemed like nonsense that the leader was talking about. I mean, how could you ask me to go and sell my possessions, something I've worked very hard for these many years? Do you know how I got it? But the leader could see further, much further than he could see. The leader knew so much more than he knew. And he went away thinking that the leader, certainly didn't have his interest at heart. But we then discover later what he lost. Because when Peter then said, Sir, we have left everything to follow you, he then told them, he said, well, anyone who gives of anything to follow me will have 100-fold return here in this world and, eternal life. So this guy was going to get a far better package. He was going to get what he ran to the master for, and he was going to have his wealth multiplied, but only if he embraced the words of the master. It didn't look like reasonable words. It didn't look like an instruction that was in his favor. It didn't look like the leader was, in pursuit of his best interest. But the fact is, he lost out. And that's the kind of value that leadership is designed to bring into your life, to bring into the lives of people. That's the kind of leadership, value that leadership brings for people who don't understand, who don't feel they have a need for a leader. You are simply undermining yourself because you are the one who is losing out. You are the one who is basically losing out. You are undermining yourself out of pride, out of a willingness to receive the leader, to believe, to trust the leader. All right? If you must benefit from a leader, trust is essential. Believing in the leader is essential. Until you do that, the power for you to experience transformation that will make you begin to reflect the essential attributes of the leader will not be transferred. You simply block that transfer from happening when you raise a standard of unbelief. That's how it works. That's how it works. To expect that you benefit from a leader, that you make fun of, all right, that is like a caricature to you, is to fool yourself. Is to fool yourself. And you would be the ultimate loser. Whether or not the leader is bad, you would be the ultimate loser. Why? Because there's a lesson to learn. From bad leaders, you can at least learn how not to fail as a leader, which can be very costly. I would rather learn that lesson today than learn that lesson 5 years from now. All right, when I'm faced with the same situation, just because when I had the opportunity to learn, I didn't take advantage of that opportunity. All right, so these are the things that I want to share with us today. We've been discussing following. A leader is serious business, the cross of following, the responsibility of following. If many more understand this, we would be better off for our own sakes and for the sakes of those that we're certain to be given the responsibility to lead, later in our journey. You can learn from good leaders, from bad leaders. In each case, it's important that you follow in truth and in deed. And the elements of what that entails is what we have examined today. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu. And, this has been Leadership in 30 Minutes. I want to thank you for joining me once again today. In case you missed Leadership Monday, please check it out. I had a session on Monday. It will interest you. There's always something to benefit. There's always a perspective. And I hope that as you watch, as you listen, and as you express your comments in the comment section, we all will learn, will benefit from each other. That's the essence of, this program. That's the essence of these broadcasts. Don't forget, there are different ways that you can reach out to me for help. You can check out the Smart Leader program. If you want to boost your capacity to lead within 31 days, that's the kind of program that you should go through. Every day you would get a video, and that video will deal with a particular aspect of leadership. You will have assignments as well, and I will respond to you via video as well. Personal video made just for you. You want to really put yourself in a position where you are fit to provide quality leadership. That's a program that you need to really, really consider. That's a program that you need to consider. You may also have heard about the class of 12. The class of 12 is a special class. It's only for 12 leaders at a time. And in the class of 12, my focus is to share 12 brutal but fundamental core truths about leadership. You want your leadership to be unique. You want to hedge yourself against failure. That's one program you need to explore. You can send me an email, and if you care, it can be a program that is personal, to you, and we can discuss that. Again, check my description. You find my email there, or you just send me your email or express your interest in the comments, and be sure that I will reach out to you. All right, so I'm going to stop here for today. Till Monday, when we'll meet again, for you to take delivery of another nugget, for doing that. We help you do leadership right. It's been yours sincerely, Olatunji Shobodu, and it's been a pleasure coming to you once again today. Thank you for sharing the time. At the top of the hour, I'll be having a guest, a special guest, our second edition, in our special guest series. You want to join us. It's going to be on this channel once again, and it will happen. It will take off, in a few minutes at the top of the hour. We'll be talking about leadership and sales, leadership and sales, and I would have, an expert to discuss that with. All right. Once again, what a pleasure it has been. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Share the link also with your friends, with colleagues. If you have found this useful, I'm sure many others will be looking out for something and can use this kind of content. Once again, God bless you, and bye bye.